What would you say is the word or a couple words to represent 2022?
Hope, renewal, unity and diversity, song and dance.
Ooh.
Let's celebrate. Let's come together. Let's believe in the world that we can create, that we want to create. Let's believe in it because we have to see it first to be it.
Mm.
But we do have energies for that in 2022, starting in late March, April.
Welcome back to the Highest Self podcast, Laura G. So excited to have you here.
It's an honor. Always wonderful to be with you. Thank you.
And the first question I'd love to ask you is, what makes you your highest self?
Well, it's the same that I think I said last time. I love chanting when I'm singing and chanting, especially outdoors. I feel like, the wind is caressing your face, the sun is kissing your skin, the birds come and sing with you. So nature, beautiful places in nature and singing,
Mm.
chanting.
Love that so much. And
Yeah.
you are such a powerful Shakti, full force stream of information on all things Vedic, from Ayurveda to Jyotish, Vedic astrology, which we'll be diving into. And I'm so fortunate to have recently had a consultation with you and in the past on my birthday and before. And I love your wisdom because to me, you are the person that has made Vedic astrology really accessible for me to understand. And I know for so many in my Rose Gold Goddesses community, where you have a beautiful workshop on how to read a Vedic astrology chart. And I think so many people right now are realizing the significance of the sidereal system and just, how in a way we just haven't been taught this system and this approach, which we go into all the differences of Western and Vedic astrology in the previous episode that we did together. So I will link that below if people are like, what is Vedic astrology? How is it different? How do I read it? I will link that below. But in this conversation, I really wanted you to share your wisdom of what you see coming up for the collective from, the end of this year of 2021, which has been continue to be unpredictable, and what is in store for us spring of 2022, because I know a lot of shifts are coming. So can you share a little bit of your downloads with us?
Well, a lot of great shifts are coming. Just to really quickly preface it, 2020 was a mess. The sky was a mess. The planets, the malefic planets, the planets that bring accidents and depressions and all kinds of trouble, they were strong. The planets that help us and support us, the planets that give us hope, abundance, prosperity, flow, health, wellness, they were weak. 2020 was a difficult time. 2021 has been a mixed bag. Things are getting better, but then things are going back, and it's sort of back and forth, contract, expand, contract, expand. So we are living this year with that uncertainty that makes life uncomfortable. Human beings don't usually like too much uncertainty. Recently, all summer and into the autumn, Saturn, Jupiter were retrograde. That can create some stagnation. And then in September, Jupiter retrograded right on back into Capricorn. Markets dropped, hope dropped. Lots of people have been through a little bit of a tough time, but I'm here to give you the good news. So October is when the planets Saturn and Jupiter will be going direct again. And then Jupiter will be able to catch up. He'll get back into Aquarius November 20th. So Jupiter's been in Aquarius. He was in Aquarius for the most part of this year. But because he went retrograde, summer and autumn, he retrograded back into Capricorn. But fortunately, he'll be moving direct in October and then making it back into Capricorn November 20th. I'm putting some emphasis on that because Jupiter is the planet of wisdom. He's the advisor, the counselor. He's our wise guide. He helps us feel hopeful, and he helps us expand our wings. He's very uplifting, very positive, and wants to unite, wants to bring us towards our highest self. So when he's in a good sign, he's really got a great power for us, and he's very, very uplifting. So November 20th until April 12th, we've got Jupiter in Aquarius moving in direct motion, and that will be very positive. Jupiter in Aquarius gives the chance to it gives humanitarian ideals. It gives a chance to grow technology in science, in mechanics, and in our group settings. Aquarius has a lot to do with getting together. So hopefully we'll start seeing more opportunities to be able to get out and get together. right? And to get into events and get into live. I think we've all really got quarantine fatigue, right? We really do have a desire, a burning desire now to get back together. Jupiter in Aquarius helps us with that. Aquarius loves to meet people from all walks of life. So that's one good thing. Saturn, of course, will be going direct. He's been in Capricorn since late January of 2020. And he takes 2.5 years to go through any sign. He's been retrograding as well. He's doing all this retrograde in Capricorn. If you have a moon in Capricorn or you've got Saturn in Capricorn, if you've got Saturn in Capricorn, then you're in your Saturn return. If you've got moon in Capricorn, you're right in the middle of your Sade Sati. So those are periods where it can be a little bit challenging. Good news is Saturn will be leaving Capricorn let me just get these dates exact for you. Saturn is leaving Capricorn and moving to Aquarius, April 28th of 2022. So I'm sort of jumping ahead there, but I just want to let people know that Saturn's been heavy in the retrograde period. However, in Capricorn, Saturn's been able to give us some tools and some resources to help build and rebuild. Sort of this motto we had in the election cycle last year of build back better. That was a very Saturn in Capricorn motto. And so Saturn now will be moving to Aquarius. So Saturn's move to Aquarius will be an even better place for Saturn to be. So here's the great news. Starting November 20th, things pick up because Jupiter goes to Aquarius. Then in the spring of next year, Jupiter is going to Pisces, Saturn is going to Aquarius, and these nodes, Rahu and Ketu, the lunar nodes that cause eclipses, are also moving. So March, the nodes move, April, Jupiter moves, and in May, Saturn moves. And these are all long transits. The nodes stay 18 months in one place, Jupiter stays 13 months in one place, Saturn spends 2.5 years in one place. So we're going to see a lot of dynamism in the sky in the spring of next year. And the good news is Jupiter's going to its own sign of Pisces, where he's very, very strong. Saturn's going to a place of great dignity, Aquarius, where he's very, very strong. So we have the help of these two teachers, you might say, these outer planets that really do powerfully affect the collective and will be powerfully affecting it in the sense that Saturn in Aquarius is going to be wanting people to get together, building towards humanitarian ideals. Pisces is also humanitarian in sign. So we've got the help of Jupiter and Pisces also wanting us to connect, but in that place, really connecting at the heart, really connecting at that level of oneness. We are one, we belong to one family. So the two of those planets, Saturn and Jupiter, are going to be very, very positive for the collective. Again, I think November 20th, we start to see an uplift, and it starts to really kind of up, expand. And then March, nodes move, April, Jupiter moves to Pisces. And then at the end of April, Saturn moves to Aquarius.
Wow. So much. So what I really took from it was wait till November 20th. Just keep it cool, lay low. I don't know what's going to happen. It maybe continue to get a little bit more divided, a little bit more crazy. In a way, I think that, and I'm curious what the stars say about this, but the division has gotten so bad and so in our faces that it's awakening us from it. It's like it almost needed to get to this level of extreme for us to be like, wait, we are dividing and segregating and labeling and judging and being so cruel to each other. This isn't how humans treat humans. And then I'm hopeful to hear that now this humanitarian, more heart consciousness wave is coming over, because I feel like we've reached a threshold of how divided. And I think a lot of people's fear is, are we going to move further and further into this division that we separate into two different societies, countries? Do you see something like that happening?
You know, it's a great question, because in February of 2022, Saturn will be moving into the nakshatra of Dhanishta. And nakshatras are stars. So when we talk about signs, we're talking about groups of stars, constellations. And within those constellations, there are certain bright stars. So as the planet travels across a constellation, it's closer at each point to the beginning, the middle, the end, the stars as they cross. And Dhanishta is a star that is really at the end of Capricorn, the beginning of Aquarius. And Dhanishta, all of this year, Saturn, the entire year has been in Shravana, which is the nakshatra that relates to listening. The symbol is the ear. And so this year, 2021, in a way, a theme for this year has been, let's stop opining and start listening, or at least deepen our listening. Let's practice listening, and listening with an ear to the heart. And Saturn is a great teacher. He's the farmer, and he's teaching us to turn the soil, plant the seeds, water the seeds, and then wait, right? He teaches patience. He teaches hard work, delayed rewards. So we're not getting the lesson. If we're not getting the lesson, he's going to keep doing it. Plant the seed, water, wait. Plant the seed, water, wait. We need to be listening more. At the end of the day, at the end of my life, do I want people to remember me for my opinions? Or would I rather people remember me? I want people personally to remember me for my heart. I hope people know that I was here to love, right? But that means coming back to the heart, ear to the heart, to listen. Next year, when Saturn in February moves to Dhanishta, from Shravana to Dhanishta, that is symbolized by the musical drum. So there's a lot of themes here that talk about getting together, maybe singing and dancing and enjoying life together. But be cautious, because Dhanishta is ruled by Mars. And Mars is the planet of dynamism, action, bravery, bold assertion, but also the planet of aggression and muscularity. And so we want to be sure that next year in 2022, we are following you could say that we're more in the Aquarian age. It's not the Aquarian age, but we're more in the Aquarius, you could say, mindset of being open to diversity, while we're also in the Pisces mindset of recognizing that we are all one. So there's a nuance to it.
Yeah, and I think that the great reminder is, with any planet, any sign, there are light and shadow sides. So that light side is, we can all move together into singing and dancing and chanting and creating unity and using those beautiful powers of it. Or we can move towards more aggression and who's right or who's wrong with the energy of Saturn. So another theme that I'm seeing is, the word "the collective" it's a very hot word right now. Everyone's like, the collective, what does the collective want? And I also could see the shadow of that being the sacrifice for the collective. It's not about you, it's the collective. Do what's right for the collective. And I'm curious if that's maybe a shadow side of this Aquarius energy of maybe sacrificing what you feel is best for you because you just want to do what's right for the collective. But this collective being this, who is the collective? The collective is comprised of a bunch of individuals. And I feel like it's this old paradigm of you give and you give and you give to the collective, but it's like, who's benefiting from this collective narrative? Have you noticed anything about this?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It's sort of interesting, because I feel like what I'm seeing is more of this, I want freedom, freedom, freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, okay, but then how do we grow the common good?
Mm-hmm.
How do we live together? Two great teachers, Jesus Christ and Buddha, as two of a couple, there's numbers, but they came at close times in history. They both came at times when their people, their collective in the Middle East and in Asia, were living through very, very troubled times. And they both, you can look at the stars, you can look at the sky, it's like they are both the coming alive of the cosmos' desire to teach people how to make an evolutionary leap. And I just wonder if that's what we're going through now. Mm-hmm. And so I think you were onto something at the beginning, and even here. It's really important that we look at both the individual and the collective. What is being asked of us in terms of personal and collective transformation?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's exactly what this divide is. The people who are super far into the individual freedom, it's all about me, zero government, zero control, and like moving further into that. And then people who are totally like the collective and do what's right. And the government knows what's best for us. And, it's interesting because both sides, they're trying to do the right thing. And I think
Yeah,
what's hard is that it's almost like, it's like every world religion. You've just read different books, you read different
right,
books, so you have different answers. And
right.
I'm just curious what this pathway towards us seeing that, we all want the same thing. We all want to be safe.
Mhm,
We all want to be free, both. So how do
mhm.
we come together to speak the same language?
Yeah, how do we? As Oscar Wilde said, that England and America are two countries divided by the same language. Um, Even when we have the same language, we
Mm-hmm.
can be so divided. And, I think it's so beautiful too, if we think back to the nakshatras, Saturn's been transiting Shravana. I feel like you've been tuned into that. And maybe that's got something to do with your own chart. But this year has been about going beneath the surface of all this division. The division is out there, it's not in here. So Shravana is inviting us, come listen to your heart, listen to the silence within. And yet, I feel like if I do go out, what do I want to do? I keep saying my community, I mean, my neighborhood where I live, the residential community, has been extremely divided. And yet, every now and then in the summer, there's been a concert in the park, and we've just all gone out and danced. We
Mm-hmm.
just sing and dance. Everybody, all ages, all types of people, no words, just dance, right? So music and dance, and that is what Shravana into Dhanishta is telling us. Shravana said, go in, listen, find your true values. Doesn't matter if others are living according to your values. Find yours, listen to your heart. And next year, let's join together and be together beyond language, beyond opinion. Let's be together in the song of life itself.
Mm. And what do you see happening in terms of just politics in these elections and all of that? Do you feel like there's going to be a revolution or a big change happening? Or do you think people will just sort of create their own ways of self-governing themselves?
Well, so right now, I knew that we were going to have a bit of like the markets would drop this week, and we're talking just what is it, late September, and because Saturn went back into excuse me, because Jupiter retrograded back into Capricorn, and so I know you can tell by looking at what's going on in terms of the planets what's going to happen in terms of government, in terms of our leaders. So our leaders are going to go through a time where everybody's angry at them. There's going to be a lot that continues to come up that people don't like, and people are going to be upset about, and people are not going to be feeling great. They're going to be feeling upset about the uncertainty. They're going to be feeling upset about things not necessarily going their way. And they're going to be upset about the markets dropping, because that's going to look like the economy is not going to do too well. Middle of October, things are going to start to look better because the two planets, Saturn, Jupiter, go direct. Late November, Jupiter goes into Aquarius, and that's going to create more expansion and more growth. So it's coming. We just have to breathe. We don't have a lot. It's not that much more time if we think about it. We're going to have a lot to celebrate this year at Thanksgiving, those of you who celebrate that. We do have a lunar eclipse November 18th, 19th, solar eclipse December 4th. Those usually affect government and leaders. Those usually do affect things at the higher level. We saw that last year in our own United States government. The January 6th insurrection came right after a really strong solar and lunar eclipse. So we do see that. But I think that what you're going to see once Jupiter goes into Pisces is two possibilities. Either we're going to unite, or people are going to use religion and their spiritual beliefs to continue to try to control, right? And Saturn moving into Aquarius, it's going to be these two really powerful forces. We're either going to unite and get things done and rebuild our world in a brighter way. The planets Saturn and Aquarius and Jupiter and Pisces give us a lot to be hopeful for, a lot that's positive. And there's like this sense of potentiality. And Saturn in Dhanisha with that Mars aspect means we are going to have to be careful that we don't become aggressive. We don't become aggressors. Rahu is moving to Aries, and Aries is also ruled by Mars. So Rahu, who's always externalizing, always looking outside of itself to take, is going to be in the sign of Aries, the sign of the military, the general. So we are going to have to be careful that we don't think, oh, there's my oil over there, I'm going to go take some. There's my land over there, I'm going to go take some. There's my whatever it is, I'm going to go take some. We are going to have to be mindful of our aggressive tendencies or our selfishness and greed. We always have to watch that, right? Maybe not you and your friends don't have to watch it, but generally humans do. It's there in us. So there is that. And I don't want to say either way what exactly will happen. We'll have to watch. Part of it, a lot of it has to do with where we put our intention.
What would you say is the word or a couple words to represent 2022?
Hope, renewal, unity and diversity, song and dance. Let's celebrate. Let's come together. Let's believe in the world that we can create, that we want to create. Let's believe in it, because we have to see it first to be it. But we do have energies for that in 2022, starting in late March, April.
So in Vedic astrology, it says that right now we're in this Kali Yuga time period, the time of darkness. And there's a lot of debate over when that ends, if it already ended, if it's going to end 1500 years from now. What is your perspective on this and our collective consciousness right now, and how it's increasing or decreasing?
Oh, such a big question you ask. It's such a great and big question. So I've been a devotee of Paramahansa Yogananda's, and his teacher Sri Yukteswar was a Jyotishi, a great master of Jyotish. Sri Yukteswar once said to Yogananda, one of my favorite lines. He said, "You have to do this, that, and the other thing, or you're going to end up in the hospital with a liver problem." And Yogananda said, "I don't believe in this nonsense," and ignored him, and then ended up in the hospital with a liver problem. At which point he said to his brother, Yogananda said to his brother, go to Yukteswar and ask him again what it was that I need. So when Yukteswar said to Yogananda, "You need to do these things," and Yogananda said, "I don't believe in it," Sri Yukteswar said to Yogananda, "The truth does not need you to believe in it in order to be true." It's my favorite line ever. The truth does not need you to believe in it in order to be true. So such a beautiful line. Anyway, Sri Yukteswar does believe that we're already coming up out of the Kali Yuga into a higher Yuga, but that we're just at the beginning of that. Whether we're still in the Kali Yuga or we're in the next Yuga, the fact is we are rising. We've gone from the dip to the rising side of things. And you can see that there's a lot of ascension. There's a lot of transcension or transcendence. There are so many people now learning to meditate. Gosh, a couple of years ago, I was visiting my Ayurvedic teachers. I was at the grocery store and I saw Time magazine, and on the cover was a woman meditating. I thought when I began meditating, people thought I was crazy. And now it's on the cover of a national magazine. That already is a great sign of how much it's grown, how popular it's become. Thanks to people like you, look how popular Ayurveda has become. So many people knowing about Ayurveda is helping us to restore Dharma, Sanatana Dharma. Then you go and you write a book about Dharma. So people are not only restoring their personal selves to their personal Dharma, but restoring ourselves collectively to nature's rhythm and flow, which is the Sanatana Dharma. So clearly there is a lot of growth in the world. But as long as we live in this world, and beautiful time to talk about it, in nature, in the autumn, when we're always seeking balance, we're seeking the balance of the solar lunar energies. We're seeking the harmony of the 5 elements, right? We are at a time when there is a lot of growth, a lot of awakening. And yet we live in a world of duality. So what is happening? There's a pulling in the opposite direction. And is it going to split us apart and we're going to all fall down the crack in the middle? Right? I think the important thing is that what matters is we do our work. And once awakened, we seek company. Once a great master staying at a home woke up early in the morning to do his meditation, and suddenly one of the children in the family awoke and went to wake up the other kids to play. And the family said, "Oh, I hope they didn't disturb you." He said, "No, it's just a great reminder that once awakened, we seek company. Stay the course. Let's each of us do our work, and let's do what we can to find those who are also doing that work and awakening, right? Find the people who are seeking the light, and let's help all of us awaken together." What can we do? We can't make others do it. We can only do it and hope that resonance becomes the morphic field. Ultimately, it becomes a critical mass. Ultimately, we have peace on earth. Let's hope.
I love that story that once you've awakened, you desire company. And it's so true. It's so natural to want to share that with the people in your life and online. And just, and I think that's why so many people are having career transitions right now, because once you realize all of these gifts inside your soul, you can't go back to, just doing things that don't feel in harmony with who you are and why you're here. It's like you realized you're a lion, but you've been living in a cage. So you can't go back to
Yes.
that cage anymore. You're like, wow, okay, I need the jungle. I don't know how to get there, but I feel this yearning inside of me. And it's almost like we have to go through the exact things we're the most afraid of, the reasons
Yeah.
why we put ourselves in that cage in the first place to get to that jungle. And I think that's what so many people right now, collectively, all together, are experiencing of what is your greatest fear? Is it,
I love that.
is it financial? Is it being not accepted? Is it people making fun of you, canceling you? Like whatever it is, that is showing up. And I feel right now we're given a choice to either step into it and through it to find our way and trust that there's another side, or not.
Mm-hmm.
But even if you
Mm-hmm.
don't choose, it's going to come back and come back and come back until in
Mm-hmm.
some lifetime
Mm-hmm.
somewhere you'll step into it. So I think that I love how the yugas really show that this shift, it flows, it ebbs. And my question, and I don't know if you or anyone has an answer to this, is if source desires us to awaken, if it wants us to awaken to our true nature, to live our dharmas, to take care of this planet, why did it even design a Kali Yuga? Why create a dissension if we were all, deities with all of these powers and long lifespans and living in, these beautiful Vedic and Lemurian and Atlantean times?
Yeah.
Why create the dissension? Who designed this?
That's an awesome question. So it's also the Yugas is really an understanding of something that's just so beyond genius. So we circle around the sun. It turns out the sun is circling around its own sun. And the Yugas relate to the sun's cycles around its sun. So first of all, it's just a seeing of that as the sun cycles around its sun, we go through different phases. Just as here on Earth, we're going through different seasons. You could think of the Yugas as being like a season, right? And the way I understand seasons, the way I think about seasons is it's nature's elegance, nature's wisdom, nature's efficiency. It doesn't want to just be energetic all the time, just like we need daytime and nighttime, we need to sleep and restore ourselves. So in a way, the Kali Yuga, you could see it as this beautiful, what is going to awaken you more? A lot of people don't wake up thanks to an easy life. I look at an easy life, I look at the chart of a person with an easy life. It's a lifetime of coasting. It's not a lifetime of growth. A lifetime of growth, not such an easy chart. A lifetime of growth comes from debilitated planets here or planets in those difficult houses, right?
And does our soul choose this? Like, you know what? I've had some crazy lives. I want to take a breather this one. Just like give me a pretty easy 9 to 5 where I barely have to show up for work in this life. I just want to drink some beers. Does it like choose that? Because I think I have some family members who chose it.
It's maybe a little bit more like I have a very good friend who's just everything she does seems to turn to gold. She's never seemed to have any hard day, right? She never seems to just everything just seems to always go her way. It's just like an easy flow. And she's a beautiful person, but there hasn't needed to be a lot of growth in this side for a lot of self-examination, self-inquiry, self-awareness. That usually comes from challenge. As much as we don't want that to be true, that, I'm afraid, is how humans learn and grow. And so, back to your original question, such a beautiful question. If Source wants us to grow and awaken, and it does,
Mhm.
our future, our essence and our future is to be an awakened being, to be home in the transcendent sphere. And even now, the way the yogis consider it is there's different lokas, there's different planes of existence. And 2 lokas away is Swarloka, the heavenly realm. It's only 2. And in that loka, everybody's already awakened and existing that way. So there's no Kali Yuga there. In other words, time, the yugas are a way of understanding one way of experiencing time, but there's many ways. And once we awaken, we are ourselves in the Swarg. We are ourselves in the moksha. Moksha is a word that means liberation, but it also means heaven. We can bring heaven to earth. I think that's so important for us to remember. So Kali Yuga relates to the duality. And as long as we're alive, we live that. But as long as we are in the heart, we are in the non-dual realm, having an embodied experience in the realm of duality. We can live both simultaneously.
I love that, without winter, there can't be spring and there can't be summer. And eventually the summer is going to naturally have to turn into fall. And
Yeah,
that paves the way for the next winter. And these cycles have always existed throughout time. And, even in tropical places, it happens with the rain, or there's always cycles. There's always life and death, and life would be meaningless without the death. And we humans, we do learn through juxtaposition. And I burned my finger on that. I don't want to touch that thing anymore.
right.
And that's how
Yes.
we learn. What I'm wondering is, as we shift in consciousness, can we create a reality that we don't have to continually learn from pain?
I mean, the long answer is yes, of course, definitely. And the short answer is if we're in a human body, we are here. Let me say it this way, the way I see many, many charts, I've just had a lot of clients, including you, who I look at their charts recently and I see what I consider to be a bodhisattva, someone who's advanced many, many lifetimes, let's say, of awakening. When I think about you and the work you're doing, the books that you've written, the messaging that you put out in your social media, you just feel like there's just lively, dynamic, powerful spirit that chose to come alive in this time to shake it and say, "Wake up!" I promise you, it'll be worth it, right? And but if in order to do that, you had to come into a human body with a human nervous system. Sure, we're spiritual beings having a human experience, and this human experience is very real. And this nervous system is very real. And it's communicating to us through feeling, mostly through feeling things. I mean, I had an experience. My father, this is the anniversary of my father's passing. So not too long ago, today, just a few hours ago, I was really teary, really feeling that loss. I don't ever not want to feel that loss because it's so tender to feel his presence, right? It's so tender and beautiful and dear, even as it makes me cry, to remember how great he was and how blessed and lucky I was to have that person as a father, right? So, there's also that beauty. What is it that they say? What is it that, is it Hafiz who says, it's the crack where the light comes through? There's beauty. So it's about, can we get to a place where the experiences, even when they're painful, feels like, God, I'm so grateful to be alive and to be able to feel this and learn something from it. and grow, and glory be to God. Hallelujah. Yes. Mm.
Full body resonance with all of that. And
Oof.
to feel is such a gift. And I think so many of us, when we step into feeling, there's just so much there that we haven't felt before that it just feels so overwhelming. So we're like, how can I cut myself from this ability to feel? Because my life would be easy. But if you cut yourself from the ability to feel pain, sadness, grief, you cut
Yeah.
yourself from the ability to feel love, pleasure, joy, because they really are two ends of the same coin. And what I'm seeing is almost that's what ascension is. And that's why I'm using that word in air quotes, because I feel that so many people misunderstand this word of like, we ascend, that we stop being a human and we become these like aliens that like don't need to feel and like don't need to anything. And that's numbifying the human experience. And also, why would we be here if the goal is to not be a human?
Yeah.
Why would we incarnate as being a human? What
Right.
if it's to
Right.
explore the richness of being a human, which means to feel?
Totally. Absolutely. 1,000,000,000%. 100% agree with that. We're here to be here and to
Mm,
be fully in our bodies, fully alive, to do the fullest range of experience, the full spectrum of everything that we can feel and know through our five senses. Absolutely. And what, the opposite of feeling is numb. You were talking earlier about the lion in the cage, and I was thinking about my sister-in-law, Colleen Plumb, is a she's a photographer, fine art photographer, and she's gone around to the zoos in America, and she's photographed elephants in captivity. And they do this thing stereotyping where they sway back and forth. And when you watch it, it feels so soothing and calming, and these great, majestic, beautiful animals swaying back and forth, and it feels like, calming. Until you learn why they're doing it. They only do it when they're in captivity. It's their way of dealing with being in captivity. So the lion in the cage, the elephant in captivity, what we want to do is set ourselves free. But freedom doesn't mean to get out of here. Freedom means free to feel all your feelings and know that they're not going to destroy you. To feel all of your feelings and know that in each feeling is the potential for awakening, right? The potential for grace to
mm.
arise and hold you in their heart. Yeah, it's very powerful.
I love how you shared that about the elephant swing, because I watched this documentary on orphanages in Romania,
Mm,
and a lot of these children that have, different types of learning disabilities are abandoned because their families just don't know how to take care of them, and they're abandoned into these orphanages where they
yeah.
barely have any human contact or love. I mean, they're starving and it's extremely inhumane. And what I noticed is watching the documentaries, you see this girl being dropped off, and over her year or two there, she develops something that she's swaying back and forth, just moving herself, rocking back and forth. And all of the kids are doing it. And what they shared, it's to soothe your nervous system, just like a
Yeah.
baby rocks their child. When you don't
Mhm.
have anyone to take care of you, when you don't have freedom, when you don't have connection and community, you look for ways to self-soothe yourself. So you start to rock yourself until it becomes an addiction that you can't stop. And
Mhm.
and also that elephant in captivity, you could look at that as, oh well, at least there's no lions to attack it, at least they're safe from the tigers or this or that. So they're swaying, but at least they're safe. And it's such a great reminder for humans of like, how are we putting ourselves into that cage and being like, well, at least it's safe in here, like at least I'm good, even though I'm like
Yeah.
have a nervous system
Mm.
tick that I'm taking care of myself,
Yeah.
because I'm too free to be in my natural habitat, which
Yeah.
is wild and free. And yes, there may be danger, but that's life.
And that's a really powerful, it's a great way to look at it, because then if you come back to at least they're safe, at least under my control, in my four square walls, at least I can justify it by saying they're safe. At least I, as an occupying force, at least I, as a greedy, extractive power, I will justify what I'm doing, taking the animals out of the natural habitat, right? Basically, we're saying, as I remove myself from my dharma, and I mean this in the larger sense of that word dharma, my aliveness, my dance with the rhythms of life. If I remove myself from it and put myself in a safe place, yeah, I'm going to end up numb. I'm going to end up dying, and I'm going to justify it by saying it's safe. Mm-mm.
Mm-hmm.
It's imperial, you know, it's a kind of imperialism, a kind of colonial captivation, right? No,
Yeah, I
set
believe
yourself free.
exactly. And, I think we can see so many examples of that from your career to, I was just thinking about the feminine and how right now what we're seeing in Afghanistan is the Taliban is taking over and putting these women back in captivity, covering them up, putting them in the home, not letting them go to school, taking away their rights for what? Their safety, because they may
Yeah.
be endangered there, someone may hurt them there. So we're actually doing this because we deeply deeply care about you and honor you. We're taking away all your rights and having you stay at home covered because we want you to be safe. And
Mhm.
how that story is used again and again and again for control. And it's only until we look at a relationship with death and really look that death is not the worst thing that can happen. It's an inevitable thing. It's a guaranteed thing to happen. So when we can really look death eye to eye, then we stop living a caged life in the name of safety.
Right. Yeah, and why is that, I wonder? I mean, on one level, it's because it's like suddenly you're able to say, what would my regrets be at the end of my life if I don't choose? It's more than even freedom, it's my authenticity, you know, my purpose for coming alive. Yeah. And then really looking death in the eye, you can say, as long as I'm alive, I want to be alive, not dead, not numb,
Mhm.
right? So it's
Many people
powerful.
choose their death far before they actually die.
Yeah, and it's a slow death, right? Just
Mhm.
slowly. Yeah.
Well, I
You're
think,
doing great work.
thank you. And I think conversations like this really open people up, especially at this time where these energies can activate us and activate our fears and activate these higher glimpses of universal truth. So I think it's so important
Mhm.
the work that you're doing of spreading that and sharing that and reminding people to again connect to their cosmic nature, because we really are
Yeah.
all always interconnected with the stars.
It's so important, and what you're saying is so important because, you know, for anybody who's listening who is having a difficult time, a dark night of the soul, you know, two things. One is even in the dark night, even then there is the moon, right? So keep going within, keep finding the light that always is there existing within you. But also reach out, find a friend, reach out to people who can support you because we're not designed to be alone. We're not designed to be lonely. We are designed to do the work and only you can do the work. So there is that singularity. But at the same time, we are stronger together. We need each other. And so, you know, there's that, again, that duality of go within and find your light, but then go without and find your support. Not without your support, but go outside. Reach out to find your support.
I love that so much. And I love how you share that this year, 2022, especially, will be lots of music and dance as pathways of healing, which I think is so the medicine that our souls need: community, dance, sun, touch, and just coming back to being a human again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much for all of your wisdom. And where can listeners connect with you and book a reading with you?
Yeah, exactly. Come back to being a human again amongst humans again. That's so
Yes.
important. It's the community that we really need. And that is going to be a theme: unity and diversity, but also unity in community, singing and dancing together. I'm at lauraplumb.com. Very simple: LauraPlumb.com.
Awesome. And I will have that link in the show notes. Thank you so much for sharing with us
Thank
today.
you. So great to be with you always. Thank you for all that you do. You are a bright light. I'm so grateful.
Thank you.